Oh, okay, right. So it is the presidential election. From my own point of view and sense of this, as much the world needs more. I mean, I get you, T Duck. In a way, I'm a great proponent, fan of Brad Blanton and his book Radical Honesty, where his proposition thesis is that the world is the way it is because people just aren't honest. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. We're not honest with ourselves, let alone anyone else necessarily, and we don't say what we really want to say. What we're struggling with, I think, is not that. That's the easy bit in a way, isn't it? To be able to say what's on your mind bravely. What's not there is the ability to say it in a way that is constructive. We are struggling with those tools at the moment, aren't we? And this presidential election is a sign of that, isn't it? I guess where you can't speak freely and openly, you wait for the secrecy of the ballot box and inflict a result on your fellow people who you would like to give them a piece of your mind. And it tells you something, doesn't it? They're here and all over the world. If the only time you get to do that, the only time you really feel like you're making your feelings felt, and it is the ballot box a place for feelings? You might argue that it's a place for rationality. Who of these candidates can give the best service on a very rational and scientific basis? For me, I would err on the side of rationalism here. It's a good case for rationalism, to be rational when voting. But it would appear that what we have all over the world is, in the absence of being able to be honest and straight with each other in a constructive way, because we're not seeing a lot of that. I think we have moved on a lot, and people are being very outspoken on what they might be called radically honest. But what's not happening is the context in which that can be heard and managed very well. So what we're getting is not a growth of understanding. We're getting a growth of polarity and separation between people, which I don't think is in any way constructive. And that's my concern about the election here in Portugal, is in terms of political temperature and emotions, and where the country is right now, reeling from a national natural disaster. That outpouring through the ballot box of a Chega representative will be pretty devastating if for that to be the outcome, as is happening all over the world, and has been happening all over the world for a very long time. And more, we don't like it up us so much in our part of the world, where it seems to be happening, what's loosely referred to, or directly, but at the same time loosely referred to as populism, because we're also at the same time saying so much with so few words, and we're not explaining ourselves necessarily, are we? It's like fascist, far right, blah blah, you're this, you're that, left, right, blue, red. It's like these labels do not serve us, when all they are is a push button for us to confirm what we're already thinking, feeling, and are butt hurt about, and just want to push back, fight back, and hurt other people with name calling. I think that's where we're at, honestly, on a widespread scale. And what I hope for is in no way people not being able to speak or express themselves or choose whichever party they want to, but a broadening of the conversational context as to why. It would appear, it's very interesting to me anyway, that we have a old school socialist candidate who looks like he might win according to the polls, and we know what that means. Polls have not been very accurate, have they, around the world? And the sentiment that, oh, that could never happen here, hasn't been very accurate either. And it's not beyond, I don't think it's beyond the realms of so-called reality that there may well be a Chega president in this country later on today. Who knows what might happen? I don't know enough about how this system works and how relevant polls are to make the call. But judging by other situations around the world, when people say that couldn't happen, and this is what the polls say, that isn't always how it turns out. And I just think, as a foreigner looking in, I'm not sure the country needs that level of that temperature rise, that emotional temperature rise. And with this, I do, on the one hand, I really sympathize, understand, and I am one of those people who doesn't feel represented by the ballot box and democracy such as we have it. And I, at the same time, obviously, from some of the comments that were made earlier on this morning and reported, it is relatively a lot better in so many ways. Of course it is. And yet, is it as good as it could be? No, I don't think so. And we are using systems that are beneath us and are ripe for renewal, which is what a lot of this devastation politically and disturbance is all about, I think. And when we're calling on the one hand for radical honesty, and the only method people feel they have to speak freely is secretly in a ballot box and inflict their pent up emotional feelings on other people, which is what I think happens now in politics and has been for a long time, despite the mantle and pretense of rationality. It is where we are unresolved and emotional and just triggered on a very low level all the time. One outlet for that is politics, and I think it's the wrong place when we're deciding on public servants. As much as possible, can we keep the emotions out of that? Apparently not, all over the world. Anyway, let me just see what your response might be to that. I haven't been called far right for a long time. Not that I want that, but it happens, especially when I speak openly in the way that I do, sometimes, occasionally. Yes, as you may know, if you watch regularly, I again made my comments about the Epstein files just recently on this channel, but making it clear that I was distancing it from being a Portuguese message in any way. It was very personal. And occasionally when that happens, I do lose a few friends. So-called a real blessing would be the ECB doing a bit of QE. Yeah, I agree with this, and dropping liquidity grants to people and builders to repair roofs, houses, etc. Let's call Madame Lagarde la dominatrix. Do it to us bad and dirty. Drop money on us. We'll strip off while you throw those dollars at us. La dominatrix, Madame Lagarde. Wow, you took me down a very dark road there, Rui. Hiya, guys. Here for a short while. You're here for a short time, you're here for a good time, not a long time. Okay, that's what Andy says, isn't it? I'm here for a short while waiting for the engineer. Hope all well. Okay. Good. I won't tell you what came to mind from that comment, Welsh Jackie. It's Rui's fault again. Good morning. 18 mil overnight. Who doesn't like 18 millimeters overnight? No one at the moment in Portugal. Portugal needs a change. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, I think you need a change. I'm going to push you in a ditch. There you go. There's a change for you. I'm going to push you over. You needed a change. I am so fascist and far right that I'm a huge fan of former Greek. Isn't he the exception that proves the rule? I love saying his name publicly as well. Varoufakis. I'm so fascist and far right. I'm a huge fan. I love our conversations, Roy, I have to say. We have sun. If I had a hallelujah chorus button, I'd push it right now. Quite frankly, I'm not sure if people notice, but this is not about left or right polarization anymore. This is about kicking the system. Yes, it is. However, it finds its expression, does it not, in a traditionally left-right polarized, increasingly polarized system. And so it's that phrase that comes to mind when all you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. We're bringing a hammer to a situation that needs a spanner, aren't we? And to mix the metaphor, what's needed is a spanner in the works, definitely. I would say, but for goodness sake, for the love of all that's good and holy, not violent, aggressive change, but steady transition. If us human beings are capable of that, which when you look around the world, we don't often seem to be. And this is going back to the blunt honesty thing, isn't it? We don't like it up us, and I suppose our capacity, I suppose, healthy, functional dishing out of honesty matches the amount of which we're able to absorb ourselves, doesn't it? And we see that doesn't work very well with politics, does it? When people have a political conversation, you soon get to see, well, I get to see how hurt they are about things and how that's covered up and then expressed as a political belief. I find that endlessly fascinating. I really do. It's about wealth transfer from the people to the elites and the nations, which is something all the little people can agree on, surely. And then they go back to their parties, don't they? And it's like Stockholm syndrome. I prefer these sorts of abusers. rather than these other sorts who really aren't sorting the system out. What I find amazing is the aggression from the left, and I think it works. It's called mirroring and projection, isn't it? It works on both sides. But yes, there is a certain kind of left viciousness, as there is a certain kind of right viciousness. Again, characterizations, I think, based on psychology and healing. When nothing works and nothing is certain, it's all a gamble. Why not give Ventura a go for 1 or 2 mandates? Then if it doesn't work, we vote him out. There's your democracy right there. And if we and yeah, fair enough. But what we're seeing, I think, is not what happens necessarily in Parliament and in the constitutional heights. But what we see is an ennobling, certainly not an ennobling, an enabling of other things. And we see this with the left and the right, don't we? We see that when a mandate on a acceptable level is achieved, that gives vent to the extremes of that particular ideology. And again, it works on the left and the right, as we've seen in the last few years. And if we vote him out, he will be out the easy way or the hard way. We did it once. We can do it again. Thank you so much, Rui, for that. Just to reiterate, there's a very serious situation ongoing, a national natural disaster in this country at the moment, where we can't afford to be complacent. I hope that we remain compassionate and helpful towards each other and cooperative on that level. It shows what people are capable of when it's not obviously political, doesn't it? The amount of compassion and cooperation that's been occurring in this country is so beautiful to see and gives you hope and a warm feeling about humanity. And that old sort of cliche is like, why does it take this for that to not be the standard operating procedure of people? And why do we default so easily, it seems sometimes, to the viciousness and nastiness and idiocy that the political realm offers people? It's very interesting. It's work in progress, is it not? So I do want to reiterate that we have a presidential election, and it perhaps, in many ways, is a lot about the least of us, isn't it, rather than the best or the worst of us, rather than the best of us, which we have seen come to the fore because of the natural disaster that's occurred. People say that Ventura is anti-democratic, but to prove that, we need to vote him in and then vote him out, and only then we find out. Wow, Roy, thank you so much for popping in this morning. Do take care, everybody. Let's keep this an open place for conversation and cooperation and open-mindedness and open-heartedness, and sending you, however these situations have affected you, sending you love and best wishes and good luck. We need... Okay, there it goes. You need your own channel, Rui, with such pearls and chestnuts. Pearls and chestnuts. If you want to call your autobiography that, you're very welcome. Have that one on me. Fica bem, fica junto, wherever possible. Take care. Bye for now. We'll see you again in the morning. Bye for now.
In Portugal, there's a huge